Get started here, and just real quickly on the agenda, as probably you saw in the invite, this is all about use cases. The goal for this session was to, I know we've covered a bunch of these use cases in the past, and we will continue to cover on use cases. I think one of the things that we're going to start doing is highlighting a use case every time we have this monthly office hours. So in 2020, we're going to be doing a similar format where we will be inviting folks that have newly signed up for Firefly in the previous month. We have a introduction session, and we do that mid-month, right? So we just had the beginning of the month. This is the mid-month one. So at the beginning of the month, we look back the previous month, and we invite all of the folks who had signed up to Firefly to kind of get an overview. And then in the middle of the month, so this session is our office hours. And office hours is intended to give folks who already have had their feet wet and have tried out Firefly, maybe they're coming from runtime, to essentially go through, and it gives them a format to ask questions. So really, this is our opportunity to provide some kind of in-depth technical content around new features, capabilities, just things that we don't get a chance to dive into. And the last session we did was on we did one on storage. And some of the new capabilities in the latest release. For one of those things, Spectrum UI is one of those capabilities that out of the box you get with Firefly. But in a recent release, we actually made it possible for folks to use God, my brain is not working this morning. Use an alternative method to create UI, essentially, instead of going through the components, the React components, to actually just leverage HTML and essentially CSS, right? So yeah, JavaScript, CSS, so that you can. Thank you, Manik. So that you can bring that forward if you don't know React, right? If that's not your strong point. So that's just an example of some of the things that we cover in these office hours. So today is all about use cases, and we're looking to provide folks with kind of a good breadth of use cases. We've got one that we haven't shared before at the end that I'll talk about, and that kind of talks a little bit about future direction, but when we get there, I'll go into a little more detail. So today, and I don't have it on the slide, which I'm super lame for not having this on the slide, but I've got my colleague, I don't know, do you want to introduce yourself to me?
Of course. Thanks, Ron. So I'm Manik, and I'm a product manager on Project Firefly. I've been with the IO organization for quite a bit of time now as an engineer. So happy to have you all here, and we're really looking forward to sharing some use cases and then opening up this floor for question and answers. And of course, please, at any time, feel free to use the Q&A functionality to ask your questions. We have Dewey and Stefan here from the Firefly team who'd be helping you out to answer these questions. And yes, looking forward to the rest of the session.
All right. Thank you very much. So with that, just give a quick overview. I'm sure everybody is clear on what Firefly is and what the goals are. We're looking to bring a complete design application runtime framework to help you integrate Adobe products with themselves, as well as with the other products you have in your back office. Most customers don't buy, solely a single company's technologies to implement their experiences for their customers. And so we don't expect you to, which is why we have APIs for all of our products. And Firefly gives you a really unique way to work with those APIs, both to build headless microservices as well as full UI applications where you've got an IT team, a technical marketing team, or marketers that want to do something custom. And what we're pretty much going to spend the whole time talking about is how teams that have an idea on how they might want to work beyond what you get out of the box with our products by integrating and extending the features and functionality, and then work within the Adobe Experience Cloud, because having that surface inside of Experience Cloud gives you so much benefit, because your employees don't have to worry about what's my login? It's the same one that they use for analytics or campaign or whatever products they're used to using. So having that adjacent really reduces kind of this cognitive load of jumping around from application to application. So the components we're going to talk a bunch about throughout the whole session, so I'm not going to go through this at the moment, but like I said, as part of each of these use cases, we'll go into a little bit of depth on what was used. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first one is a barcode generator for Adobe Campaign, and this is so we're kind of starting simple, and then we're going to get a little more complex as we go along. So there's a little bit of method to the way we've done this. The barcode generator is a super common use case for Adobe Campaign Standard customers. Adobe Campaign Standard, because it's a cloud SaaS offering, unlike Campaign Classic, which is an on-prem version that has a lot of capability to get in under the hood and make customizations on it, because it's on-prem. Campaign Classic, being cloud-based, doesn't have a lot of those features and really restricts what you can do in terms of customization out of the box. But luckily, there's a bunch of APIs that are available with Adobe Campaign that allow you to programmatically extend and really derive a great deal of value from what you get with Campaign. So for this one, it's a super common use case that you want to add in with a personalized email. You want to add in something like Barcode. So that if you are, for instance, a e-commerce company, or you're a company that has maybe you're in shipping, logistics, that kind of a thing, having a barcode or a QR code or something that allows someone to take that email and show it to somebody without having to re-type in all that information. So Firefly, with runtime at its heart, can basically create those barcodes or QR codes. And for this, it really highlights how much easier it is. You could certainly build this by hand using the APIs that the product team gives you through the IO gateway. But what I think the key thing here is that the CLI, the command line interface, and the SDKs really do a lot of kind of heavy lifting in streamlining how developers can work with those APIs. And that's really, I think, a huge benefit for really anyone that's starting with extensibility around the Experience Cloud. Okay, and for this, I'm going to hand it back over to Manik.
Thanks, Ron. So we're gonna do this one by one. Ron would do one, and I would do one. So we just want to keep you guys engaged. I know it's near the holidays, and everyone's mind is somewhere else. So, so the second use case we have here is from one of our retail customers, and what they wanted to do on their retail website is when a visitor actually visits a product page, they wanted to show that visitor how many other folks are actually viewing the same product. And that's a pretty common marketing technique which creates a sense of urgency in the mind of customers to buy this product, especially if you're talking about a sale or if you're talking about some offer that is ongoing. people are always afraid of this item running out of stock. So what the retail customer wanted to do is show how many other folks are viewing this and prompt a purchase from the customer. Now, the first step is to, of course, find out where this data is actually. And of course, this data would be in Adobe Analytics because your website is hooked up to Analytics. However, it is not in the shape or form that could be directly utilized by the website. So if you think that whenever a visitor visits the website, I would go in and fetch how many other people viewed this product at that time, the analytics API would not scale or would not be as performant because it is not a real-time querying API as opposed to a reporting API, which it is. So what the team at our customers did was they built out this Firefly application that periodically syncs this data from Adobe Analytics into a database. And based on that, instead of calling Analytics directly, Adobe Target was able to call Firefly application that would pull this information from the database, which has been periodically synced there, and show how many people visited this website, this product in the last 15 minutes or in the last 5 minutes. And they were able to make use of that to find, to show how many other people have viewed this and solve for their need. Next slide, please, Ron. So the purpose of us talking about what components we are using in these applications is to talk about how Firefly is not just where you write your code or how you use APIs or events. It is much more than that. It is a full-fledged development framework which not only thinks about how you integrate these various services in, but also what your developer experience is in like. So for example, in this particular use case, I want to highlight the database that is actually used to store the data that has been periodically synced. Now, typically, if you're writing this application, you would have to worry about how to create that database, how to secure access to it from your application. And with Firefly, you don't have to do that. We have a AIO state lib that would offer you all these database services which come they're already secure. So for you, it's just making an SDK call. Behind the scenes, the access from the Firefly app to the database is secured. It scales, and it's just so seamless. You don't have to think and do a lot, and you can get this functionality up and running fairly quickly. Ron, you're sharing your screen, so. Okay, over to you.
All right. Sorry about that. I always usually turn off Slack when I start a webinar, but clearly I've learned my lesson. Don't have Slack running. Okay. So scaling personalized offers. This is, again, another runtime use case that Bank of America is actually in the process of moving over to Firefly. And I think this highlights really the flexibility of what can be done in terms of working with Adobe products through APIs, right? So they have Adobe Target, and they use the Target capability for automatic personalization, right? So delivering each customer a personalized experience, and based on a list of predefined offers that that they've set up, they kind of do this one-to-one personalization. And the UI for Target allows their team to put in those offers directly into Target. But what they were finding is they constantly change those offers. They have a pretty rapid change order, right? So essentially, each week they're going through a number of different offers, and going into the Target UI just became cumbersome, and it it wasn't the way they wanted to work. And that's really what we want to offer to our customers. So using a custom interface, they were able to upload an Excel spreadsheet. So they had an Excel spreadsheet that they would put all of the content that they needed in order to, to create these personalized offers. And Firefly would then take that into Target, and it would show what is new, what are the new offers, and what are the old offers. So they have an opportunity to kind of see what's in market today and what they're changing that with. So again, they had to build the UI themselves, and I think that's really the key thing here is that the components used in scaling personalized offers, having the Spectrum UI is a great use of moving from having to build your own UI to what you get out of the box in Firefly, and then having runtime being able to orchestrate that conversion from Excel, from the content into the API of Target to a format that it understands. So again, having that kind of Swiss Army knife. Okay, and again, if there's any questions, like any in-depth questions that you want about any of these individual use cases, by all means, throw it into chat, and we will. We've got Dewey from the team, who you heard at the beginning. He's probably the most knowledgeable person out of all of us on how to build these use cases. He's our technical guru. So definitely, if there's any technical questions, and I hope I didn't oversell you, Dewey, but anything that you want to ask, by all means, jump in. With that, let me jump over to the next one, and we'll go back. There we go.
Okay. So this is another great use case from our customer. This customer wanted an automated and fail-proof solution or way to import data sets into Adobe Experience Platform. So what that means is, so they have an external system, which they have an external data source, and they want to import all these data sets into AEP. Now, those of you who have done this, you probably know that this data set ingestion is a very long-running process, and it can fail asynchronously. And when that happens, somebody needs to go in and actually retry the data set or fix whatever is the reason, and then try again. So this is a pretty manual and tedious process. You have to find out, okay, which one failed, then go back in and do that. And the team at our customer wanted an automated way of, at least retrying the data set, and some common errors that they could fix. So what they did is they created a Firefly application that listens to events that are coming from Adobe I/O events, which talk about which data set ingestion actually failed. Based on that event, they were able to programmatically react to that failure by retrying the data set in question. They had identified a few cases where they could fix that data set ingestion in a certain way and automatically retry that. This way, they not only saved on time between a developer coming to know that the data set ingestion had failed, but they also automated the process, made it less tedious, all in all. Next slide, please, Ron. So in this one, these are the different things that they use. Of course, the CLI and SDK, the runtime to run their Firefly app. They use cloud services, which is a data store and a file store. So they use data store to manage which data set failed. They, of course, use a developer tooling. But what I want to talk about is custom events here, because this is pretty close to the custom events thing. So as you saw in the previous slide, they were using product events or Adobe provided events that were coming off from Adobe Experience Platform to and listen to them in the Firefly app. Now, with Project Firefly, what we're also starting to offer is the ability to create your own events. So you could essentially use Adobe I events as just a message bus where you are a publisher of the event, and on the other end, your Firefly app or a webhook or could listen to those events. So you could plug in an external source of event. Maybe you're thinking about your CRM system that is giving off signals of some sort, and you want to plug that in and consume those events in Firefly. So it is limitless. Adobe I events can be treated as a message bus for your event-driven use cases. You can plug in an external source. You can fire your own events from the app, and that is the latest offering that we have with Project Firefly, which is custom events. Until now, you could only do product events, and you can start publishing your own events. Back to you, Ron.
Right on. Yeah, and we look to have a custom events use case specifically. There are some teams working on those today, so we will bring you those in future webinars. So content velocity again is another one similar to the Bank of America that we've talked about a lot, and there's actually this link down below. We've got a link to the Medium blog article that's written about this that goes into a little bit more detail. So essentially, the team at VRT wanted to, they have content on their website, and they wanted to create targeted newsletters that take a subset of that content without having to recreate it. They wanted an automated way to create that newsletter. So they have Campaign, and Campaign definitely can take content from an external source. So they looked to create an application that basically pulls content from their content management system, which is in this case Drupal, and then marry it with a template that they store in Amazon S3. And again, this is currently with runtime, and what you can see is that with Firefly, you get a lot of capabilities out of the box, right? So the cloud services, where you've got storage, this is something that the VRT team can then leverage now, moving from runtime to Firefly, so they don't have to use that. They don't have to have that template in Amazon S3. They're getting that out of the box with Firefly. They can leverage the storage services that we provide, and then runtime. Again, this is where runtime shines in being that Swiss Army knife, going from one format to another, taking content and data and really moving it from one system to another and transforming it along the way, so that it really, so that it's functional, so that you can use it. You're not trying to shove XML in something in a program that is expecting JSON or something like that. So for this use case, runtime really is a star here. But again, I think this gives a good roadmap for, if you're familiar with runtime, moving to Firefly, you get a lot of things out of the box. So you can drop the Amazon S3 and just really streamline the process of this content velocity story. But again, check out the Medium article, and if there's any questions, by all means, put them into either the Q&A pod or the chat. Okay, Manik, back to you.
All right. So the next use case that we're going to talk about is a custom analytics dashboard. So this particular customer of ours, they had a C-suite executive who wanted a very specific view of the data that is not only connected in Adobe Analytics, but also in an external system, and they wanted to marry this data together for a specific visualization, which could give their company that edge to understand what is exactly happening, and they could track it in real time and see the numbers grow or diminish, whichever way. So what the team there did was they built a single-page Firefly application that is, of course, built to the specification, and this application not only fetches the data from Adobe Analytics and displays it, it also stitches the data across from that external system showcasing several slices of that data on a single screen and making it that much more powerful. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a screenshot from a demo app that we did for them, and just showcasing, like, pulling this information from various places, putting it in a heat map, and yeah. So again, not gonna call out a specific one here, but they ended up using our cloud services for storing the data pulled from analytics and from the external system. You saw a UI, so they created this UI using Spectrum UI framework. And by the way, Spectrum UI framework is the exact same framework that all Adobe applications across Experience Cloud, Experience Platform, Creative Cloud, and Document Cloud, all of our own applications use the exact same framework. So what we're offering with Project Firefly is those components that we use to be used in your own app. So when you develop an app with the Spectrum UI framework, what you see is a user experience that looks and feels familiar to the Adobe experience. So for an end user of your app, they feel they're in a similar place as they are using Experience Cloud solution.
All right.
Back to you, Ron.
Cool. Thanks very much. Okay, so this one is a monitoring dashboard for Adobe Campaign Standard. And the idea is that as a marketer, you want to monitor all my workflows, Adobe Campaign, make changes to them on the fly. Campaign Classic has this capability, but Campaign Standard does not. So using APIs, the idea is this would be a great way to show the power of Firefly and essentially create, this is what it looks like in Adobe Campaign Classic, so the on-prem version. We've got ability to kind of monitor workflows, etc. And then in Firefly, this was the idea that this is what it could look like, right? You could have a UI for admins that they could look at their workflows, they could find errors in those, and it looks awesome. But in being completely transparent, I want to be absolutely clear that we've covered this a number of times in the past. So prior to this webinar, we were like, okay, should we keep this one in here because it's not possible today? Let me explain where this came from. So we had an internal hackathon where we had a number of engineering teams build out, basically take Firefly and then look at what they could build with it, right? We basically said, okay, you guys know your products, you know the content. Go ahead and imagine what the future could look like, or what's possible now. And unfortunately, when I looked at this, I thought this was using our current APIs and look into it enough. So I unfortunately that was my mistake, because this is currently not possible with the APIs that we have today. Because this is really a proof of concept to show our internal teams what we could do if we make more, if we expose more functionality to those APIs. So again, not possible today, but I kept it in here because it does show that with APIs, and we'll highlight a number of other use cases in future webinars where we've done similar things with Adobe Experience Platform. So Adobe Experience Platform has the ability to look at things like touch points with customers in a dashboard, and that is another one that someone has mentioned as well, or so that somebody had created, and that we'll showcase that in a future one, where it's a webinar that you can look at what touch points your customers are looking at and kind of get an idea of the paths that they take, kind of like you can do in Adobe Analytics, but really across a much richer and broader landscape. So again, this is using the Spectrum UI framework and the developer tools, cloud services, runtime, and the SDKs. But again, not possible, but just as a proof of concept, I wanted to kind of clear that up. Okay, back to you.
All right, this is one of my favorite use cases. So personalized experiences, and we know we're all about that. So as a marketer, I want to recognize my website visitors so I can offer them personalized targeted content. Seems simple enough, but the problem really was that when this visitor was visiting, and by the way, this is a use case from adobe.com, the website. So when a visitor actually lands on our homepage, we are facing some challenges to offer them personalized targeted content. And the challenge was that the CRM attributes for that visitor were not populating fast enough in Audience Manager, and therefore Target could not offer the right personalization at the moment. So what the team in Adobe.com did was they used Firefly. So eat your own dog food, guys. So they built a Firefly application that would just, whenever a visitor visited, they would pull that attributes from the CRM system instead of waiting for the CRM to push it in Audience Manager at some point. They pull it in and push it themselves in Audience Manager, and this way they were able to offer next page personalization. So as soon as you click a link on adobe.com, the next page itself has content that is targeted towards that particular visitor. And the team was able to eliminate 48 hours, up to 2 days of latency with this approach. There's again a great article on Medium, link below. Do go and read it. It's a fantastic use case where our own website actually uses Project Firefly to make the experience even more smooth and smooth. Let's go. Next slide, please. So simple use case, not much of the stuff used. CLI, again, runtime, developer tooling. I want to call out developer tooling. So what actually is in developer tooling is with Project Firefly, I was speaking about, making sure that the developer has the right experience while building this application. And I have been a developer myself. And one thing that is not up for debate is the ability to debug your application is essential. It's crucial for me to develop anything. And when you talk about a use case that is so complex, that has so many moving parts, you want to be able to step through your code. You want to be able to put a breakpoint and check out what the values and variables are. So with Project Firefly, we offer VS Code plugins that allow you to debug these actions. And we offer more developer tooling. So all of this is a part of the grand scheme of Project Firefly is an application development framework and not just a bunch of services. Back to you, Ron.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. And again, another use case that we've mentioned in the past. So campaign code management. This is essentially marketers want to create tracking codes to streamline the ability for them to make sense of the effectiveness of those campaigns, right? And everybody knows, even if you don't know what a tracking code is, I'm sure you've experienced them because it's that gobbledygook mixture of numbers and letters in a variety of upper and lower case that is at the end of, for instance, a URL. And that is a tracking code that essentially ties back to a campaign. And Adobe Campaign and other competitor solutions do not provide out of the box a way for enterprises to manage those tracking codes. In general, people use spreadsheets, and it's you kind of go through it's brute force manual process of managing these codes, and they all have to be unique, right? So every code has to be 100% unique. You can't have any repetition. And so some people use in the spreadsheet method, there's a format, right? They put letter and then some combination of number and then maybe some other letters, and it's a kind of formula. Um, it's kind of a pain in the butt to manage. And the fact that it's a manual process in just having a spreadsheet, there's no connection to the products themselves. So there's no way to say push those campaign codes once you've created them or once the system's created them out to the products so that they can then be used. Essentially, you would hand off the spreadsheet to somebody who's going to implement those. And yeah, it's just there's a lot of there's a lot of rotating in your chair to go from one person to the other to get these tracking codes implemented. Not at all efficient. So one of our partners tackled this use case and thought, wouldn't it be amazing using Firefly? You've got the UI, you've got the ability to create, and here we'll shift into the UI. So you're creating an application that's already inside of the Experience Cloud that the marketing teams are using day in and day out to create these campaigns. What a great place to have this application that takes advantage of all of the APIs into the products and the ability to really streamline. You can download for products that don't offer the ability to push those campaign codes in or tracking codes into the product through API. You can just download those and then go the other manual method. But it also offers the ability, like for instance, Target. You can push these directly into Target. And again, so that really streamlines the process and really frees up people who otherwise would be manually entering these into products, right? So this makes fantastic use of the Spectrum UI framework because we'll go back for a second. This looks, I mean, it really looks like you're in an Adobe application, like you're in analytics or campaign or something. It feels the same. It has the same interaction model because you're using React Spectrum. All of these components are the exact same used in our product. So somebody who you're going through an onboarding for a new marketer, and this really reduces the time that it takes them to kind of get up to speed, especially if they're already familiar with campaign and how our other products operate. It's pretty standard. And again, as I mentioned before, you've got the same authentication. So it's not another thing that you have to log into. Okay, and now let's jump back to Manik on real-time media dashboard.
Thank you, Ron. So this use case is from a media company, and as you would imagine, they have so much content that different channels are driving, and what they wanted to know is how effective each channel is, where the customers are coming from, what the customers are engaging with. When I say customers, I mean visitors, what the visitors are engaging with, and how they can, pick the right channels and push their content more. Essentially, just having a big overview of what is happening at this moment. And the key here is at this moment in real time, how do you know what is happening so that they can take the right decisions to keep their visitors and keep their customers engaged. So what they did, and the challenge essentially was as a media company, they did not want to create another data silo where they would store all of this insights and then read it from there, and they did not want to have another silo development team who would just deal with this. So what they were looking for is A, how can we leverage this data right at the source, and B, what application development tooling we could use so that that is not only applicable to this dashboard that we want to create, but it is also applicable to more use cases that are adjacent. So ultimately, they finalized on Adobe Experience Platform as the brains behind this whole operation, where all the data actually comes in from the customer to inside Adobe Experience Platform. And with the help of Adobe AI events, in real time, this data is pushed to the Firefly application that populates the real-time dashboard. We have a nice screenshot on the next screen, Ron, if you can please. And really, what is happening is all of this data is coming in and this is populated in the real-time dashboard. This screenshot, by the way, is from a POC that we did with that company. It's called, so we call it internally as Luma News Dashboard. And it shows how many active viewers are there, what are the top articles. And based on the information that they pull from this dashboard, they can actually take actions to promote specific content in various channels. Maybe they want to do a social media promotion for an article that is actually doing really well. So they could take all of these decisions based on the dashboard. And they can also create more applications that can perform this same step that I just talked about, promoting the trending articles in an automated fashion. Again, instead of showcasing it as a UI for a human to read, they could just write code that actually promotes it programmatically using social media APIs on the social media platform. Next slide, please. And these are the different components that were used across runtime, CLI. So runtime, again, forms the compute layer of all of this code running. And back to you, Ron.
All right. So the last one is a bit of it's a unique use case for sure. We're actually moving outside of Experience Cloud over into Document Cloud. And you kind of might wonder, well, why would you do such a thing? And definitely Firefly is flexible enough to create applications that could work across a variety of different solutions that we provide here at Adobe. And as a proof of concept, there was a team that put together, they took an application that they have today that had some limitations, right? It's a desktop application to essentially manage the distribution and workflow of bulk Adobe Sign documents, right? So Adobe Sign is used for taking digital signatures on a document, and this use case would be something like if you are in a giant company where you've got 40,000 employees or more, and you need to get a document out to all of your employees to sign. It could be something around benefits. It could be maybe you're giving them all stock. Whatever the case may be. You need to capture that signature, and you need to do it at a very high volume. So the Document Cloud team created a desktop tool called GigaSign. When they looked into what we were doing with Firefly, they were like, well, this is really kind of interesting because maybe we could build a Firefly application and leverage the APIs that we have with Adobe Sign through the Document Cloud and create an application that's a single page application that doesn't need to be installed on anyone's desktop and allows them to kind of manage that process. And because it's hosted by us, it allows them to, again, skip all of that, the management overhead pieces of it. But this is just a quick view of what their desktop app looked like and then what they're able to do now with the Firefly app. Having this live, in the cloud was huge for that team because it enabled them to not have to manage a desktop app, which is, I think, everyone's goal, especially on tools like this, right, where you don't have to go in and push it down to everyone's desktop. But again, this isn't something that is available today. It's a proof of concept, but just kind of gives you a glimpse into the direction that we're going. And just on the tools they use, right? The Spectrum UI framework, so it has the same look and feel. the SDKs, runtime, the developer tools, and cloud services for storing things like state and other pieces of content. Now, you guys are all probably in the developer preview, so this is a little bit superfluous, but it's here anyways. But we've got a support form. Hopefully, you've leveraged that, and if not, by all means do. Our team is definitely there to help you succeed. So with that, I am going to open it up for questions. If anyone has any Q&A, and there is one from the chat, and I don't know if you guys have looked at this already, but we've got about 7 minutes left, so I'm gonna read it. So, a customer has an environment that they call source of truth, and they're doing wholesale content pushes every 3 hours. There currently exists a process for them to make these content pushes more controlled, so they're only pushing content that they need by requesting the authors tag their content to identify, what's part of the release, similar to how developers tag features. For the next evolution, we envision a trigger-based execution of content synchronization. What are your thoughts on this use case? Dewey, you want to give I'll let you read your reply to that.
Yeah. So I already replied, but just to repeat for everyone, in Project Firefly and our runtime, we support the Allows package, which allow you to trigger the events based on predefined schedules. And then Manik already mentioned earlier in this section that we also provide a custom event so that the external system can trigger, can publish event to run like an action defined in the Project Firefly. So it depends on whether you want to predefine the schedule or based on some event from an external agent, then you use the appropriate tool. And then also it depends on which receiver of the content pushes that you are publishing. Then you can leverage a Firefly SDK to, for example, if you want to publish the asset to AEM or a Workfront or whatever.
Okay, and then we have another question on which I think Sarah is answering right now, but Gaston asked, wondering how to deploy a Firefly app together with a code release on AEM. For instance, we update the API and we need to update the Firefly app. What's your vision for, and then number two, what's your vision for Firefly apps and AEM with multiple customers? Is it one-to-N or end-to-end? And so Sarah replies, actually, Sarah, are you on can you chime in here or do I have to speak? Okay, you are. Look at that. Awesome.
Yeah. Hi, Gaston. So for the first one, really depends on, at the end of the day, you can always do the deployment through the CLI as long as you have access to the code. So I don't know if do you guys use Class Manager? Like, do you guys have your own deployment pipeline? Whatever CI/CD you already have, it should be fairly simple to take the CLI and be able to put it into that existing pipeline so that you can essentially have one deployment pipeline that's doing both to keep things in sync. And then with the second question you had, which is what is the version for Firefly apps through an AEM with multiple customers? At the end of the day, both are just totally up to you. Like each Firefly application, it can be used in multiple AEM instances. You can have multiple versions of the same Firefly applications, like for these AEM instances. So in that sense, it's very much like end-to-end, like whatever you decide is the best thing to do. However, we do, to be honest, we don't really recommend crossing one Firefly application for multiple customers, because each Firefly application is hosted within the domain and compute environment for one customer. There might be, if you are trying to use one Firefly application for multiple customers, there might be content situations that you'll come across where it's not necessarily following the guidelines of data security. You mentioned Travis CI. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we actually have existing customers that basically use this in Travis CI, so I think you can definitely go ahead and try that out.
Anyone else want to say anything else from the team?
Yeah, just see you guys on the other side.
Bye, 2020.
Yes, thank goodness. Not a moment too soon.